Right, it is 10:59 a.m. and this is the placement of what is engineered light that's inside of my leasing office. My leasing office is directly in between, again, buildings 1804 North Alvarado Street and building 1810 North Alvarado Street. And my window is facing the hillside where the people of the state are in relevant position in the housing community. That's on the beneath the grassy hills, and this is engineered light. This is supposed to be sunlight, as the light source is hovering over me, as you can see outside of my window at 10:59 in the morning. The entity is maintaining this light source in its zenith. Here it is right here. And again, this is the maintenance of the specific environment, because at 10:59 a.m. I remain at what is the Starbucks located at the intersection of Ramona and Holt Boulevard. And as I'm sitting inside of that Starbucks, you can see the engineered light. That is the impossible light activity that's moving across the floor, sweeping into the interior on the ground inside of that Starbucks, which is impossible light activity. The sun is above us, and sunlight is not creeping in at an angle and like the laser light conduct that you see inside of my apartment. That's the engineered light that's moving inside on the ground space inside of that Starbucks. That's impossible light activity. Sunlight, the sun that's above us, is not creating that light activity. And it's also speaking to what is the reason for that impossible light activity is because group stalking is underway. That is the specific environment. And it's also not only pointing out the fact that it's the specific environment, but the specific environment is that which is occurring wherever the target individual is at. And so what stands out like a sore thumb is when you go to an entirely different area, a entirely different region, or when you are looking at the sun that's supposed to be in another state like Florida. Okay, in Florida, it's a 10:59. It's 11:01 right now. They're 3 hours ahead. So it will be 2 p.m. in Florida, and you're looking at what is the maintenance of the light source in the same position as I'm looking at it outside of my leasing office at in between buildings 1804 and 1810, where, by the way, the entity is maintaining this light source, as you've seen, hours from now on the opposite side of this same building, 1810. But you have what is not possible, which is seeing the sun. The entity is suggesting that this is the sun, and it's an implausible and unpersuasive and impossible, in other words, suggestion. This is not the sun. This is the maintenance of the specific environment, and that's exactly what I captured inside of the window while I'm seated inside of third-party facilitating venue Starbucks, where they were pacing around. You were looking at demonic activity, and that's exactly what I was not mincing words about. Those were demons in a demonic environment, and they were surrounding me in that specific environment for a criminal purpose, and the outward guise is that the demon possessed are filling Starbucks and they're all getting their coffee. And for purposes of what is criminal monitoring, that system is simultaneously underway, regardless of the purpose. Okay, and I want to be clear, federal group stalking and monitoring is ceaselessly underway. It's a state system, and the entity does it via the people. So I want to be clear, the people of the state are present vicariously on behalf of the state. The people are the malicious guise under which the state is stalking. The state is surrounding you, and the state is surrounding you. The way that's readily identifiable is that engineered light, the placement of that light source, and there is no sun that would ever be visible through the window of that Starbucks as I'm facing outside of that window. The ecological address and the direction that I'm facing is relevant to analyzing also, in addition to what is the time of day and the maintenance of that light source, as I never came anywhere near Los Angeles. And while I am here in Los Angeles looking outside of my leasing office window, you have what is the light source that is maintained here in this presence over me, replete with what is light activity that's supposed to be sunlight reaching into. This is impossible light activity again. This is a covered structure above. Sunlight is not bending underneath covered structures. The sun is beside us. The sun is above us. Sunlight is speaking to what is a downward trajectory. This is light that bends underneath structures in order to appear inside, which is because it's serving a purpose of stalking and monitoring with light, hitting objects and then creating the object on the inside. Impossible light. None of this would happen if that was the sun outside of the window of the Starbucks at Ramona and Holt Boulevard. In addition, I want to be clear, the entity is maintaining this light source, as you've already seen, until after 3:30 p.m. on the opposite side of the same building. No, in the state of Florida, that's not the natural environment that they are observing, because they're looking at a sun, but we're not looking at the same object. It's impossible. The entity is also engaging with that which is impossible because the sun is constantly moving. And by now it's 11 o'clock, and you're talking about when I captured video at 8:30 a.m. and this is negligible. It hasn't gone anywhere. In addition, big picture, 6:30 a.m. it's rising in alignment to my living room window, building 1806. This is it right here. 6:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., this is non-movement. And okay, go back to what is 8:30 a.m. and at 5 p.m. it's right here. That is non-movement. That's not the sun. The state of Florida would never see the sun. All right, this is speaking to what is exposing that which is an unnatural environment, and it defies what is the operation of the natural environment. And this is speaking to, again, what coexists with the impossible placement of a light source, which is nowhere near the operation of the natural environment. This is not the sun, in other words, which is why I refer to it as the light source. This is not capable of being seen. It's not seen anywhere inside of Starbucks at Ramona and Hope Boulevard. We are not looking from the same vantage point while I'm sitting at that window facing that direction of Ramona and Holt at the same time. And that's just one example. In addition, big picture is that the state of Florida is never having the sun anywhere in its sky space, while the entity is maintaining the sun here over me at the Alvarado Gardens. And also, as I documented on April 24th, 2022, where that light source remained over me, the state of Florida would never have the sun in its sky space. The sun is a constant moving gaseous ball of fire. It's a star that is not remaining over, and this is building 1810, so this is a landmark, from what is 8:30 in the morning until after 3:30 p.m. And that's just using building 1810 as an example. And why? Because they're monitoring me while I'm on the job in my office. Stalking with the light source is the pattern of conduct. That's why it's in alignment to my living room window in the morning. And that's why after 6:30 a.m. and it's now 11 o'clock, the light source is still over the same property. All of this are speaking to the same. It's all impossible. All of it. And it's asinine. So while you have the light source here, this is what you're speaking to, the asininity. Then you're just looking, you're breaking it down step by step. This is all impossible light activity. All of it. And you're looking at what is covering the ground. So what was happening on April 24th, 2022 was the pattern of conduct. And you are looking at very highly malicious demons that are inside of Starbucks. Starbucks itself is monitoring. The baristas, they're monitoring. They're in the monitoring environment. They're in the specific environment, and they're doing so in concert with the corrupt law enforcement agency, who was also captured on video at 8:31 a.m. under the light source that was over me in the same position while I'm in motion on Omnitrans, and that light source stayed stationary over me as I arrived at the destination of Ramona and Hope Boulevard for the duration of the day. At no point would that, if that was the sun on April 24th, 2022, would it ever be anywhere on the property? Not rising, certainly not over building 1810 at all, because it remained over me, and I documented that. And I documented that for a prolonged period of time. This is the pattern of conduct, and the Los Angeles Police Department are engaging in what is the ongoing accumulation of evidence against the people of the state, because the people of the state are monitoring in this environment. They're doing it in concert, and the people of the state are engaging in what is facilitating presence and facilitating activity creation. This is Exhibit A under the light source, which there is no sun on Starbucks, so you're looking at what the people of the state were doing at Starbucks, which is group stalking. This is light activity creation. This is which is called facilitation, and this is also presence in the path, and it's actually demonic as well when you're looking at it. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct through the people of the state, who do not have to know your name. The entity surrounding you with that environment, and they are doing so with a high level of malice, and doing so on an ongoing basis while the demon possessed know what you're doing when you're doing it, and engage in this sort of conduct. By the way, let me be specific about what this is. This is P.O.C, but specifically utilizing what somebody of a foreign heritage, all right, somebody that appears disinterested, is engaging in the pattern of conduct right in your face, all right, while you're documenting it. This is all deliberate. You're dealing with demons. All of it is also legally irrelevant. What you're capturing is the criminal pattern of conduct that's underway by the state, and this is why the corrupt law enforcement agencies are stalking by helicopter, and stalking by helicopter so frequently, because I am exposing them. And you are also remembering what is the impossible placement of this engineered light and the maintenance of this light source. So this is clearly in conflict with what is nature. So why is that there? Because they are in fact engaging in what is group stalking in the state of California, and they are demons in doing so. It is demonic behavior. It's a demonic targeting system, and it is it's a mass prosecution of the people of the state. Federal group stalking and monitoring, again, is a sex offense. It's a sexually violent offense of a felonious nature committed by an entity, and that is to be recognized under federal law. And the entity engages in this as a matter of a people. They do it with children. They do it with those under the age of majority. In other words, they engage in the pattern of conduct via children. They engage in the pattern of conduct through any and ever. You're talking about through the workplace. You're talking about what is a part of what's going on when you don't even have a communication device on hand. They're targeting your life altogether, which is terrorism. So I want to be clear. Capturing this impossibility is the prosecution of the people of the state. There is no sun that would be present over the state of Florida, let alone over the window, specifically over my head at Ramona and Hope Boulevard, outside of the window of Starbucks. But that's how you're identifying a facilitating venue, in the same way that this is a facilitating venue, and the two do not coexist. And you can isolate the universe, because this isn't the sun. It's hovering over building 1810. and it's literally beside the building. And then you're talking about hours later, 12, 1, 2, 3, and it's right here on the opposite side, okay? 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours later, it's right here, aiming light on the exact same location. This is federal group stalking and monitoring, and the entity is doing it via the people. The entity relies on the people, and that's what you're witnessing as I'm documenting the pattern of conduct on April 24th, 2022. It's currently 11:09 a.m. and this is P.O.C. at Alvarado Gardens. This is building 1810 North Alvarado Street, and as I'm standing inside, this is the placement of what is engineered light, impossible light activity. This is the entity that hitting surfaces, creating what is that the object, the shape of that object inside. This is impossible light activity on its face, but it's also impossible light activity when you're remembering the entity is placing a sun over me through the window of the Starbucks at Ramona and Holt Boulevard, all of which you're reaching the same conclusion. And the reason why this environment is here, the reason why the impossibility exists, is because the people of the state are group stalking and monitoring vicariously on behalf of the state of California. All right, and it's referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring. This is P.O.C.